Well, welcome to another edition of Sportsbook Spotlight brought to you by betPARX. I'm Rich Gannon. I am joined by my good friend Charles Davis from the NFL on CBS, game analyst. Charles, I know you're heading to New York again, my friend, to do a good game between the Lions and the Jets. Travel safe. Tell Ian I said hello, but it's been a great season so far for you two.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun, Rich, and we have seen a lot of New York. I think this is our sixth game, count 2 Giants games, and this will be our 4th Jets game at MetLife. So we ought to know that pretty well between Ian, Evan, and myself. We ought to be able to know the stadium fairly well, but we've had a lot of fun, that's for sure.
Well, it's been a great season. The big story, obviously, the 12-1 Philadelphia Eagles. It's the turnaround there, particularly with the quarterback, has been so impressive. I think they're the best team in football right now. But just talk a little bit about what you've seen so far from Jalen Hurts, who I think certainly is a front runner for that MVP award.
Rich, what I've seen in terms of improvement, and we always want to think about improvement as this dramatic, he changed this and he went from that to that. Sometimes it's not as dramatic as people want it to be. There's a gradual and a growing into things, getting more comfortable. But I thought this offseason, he addressed a couple of areas. One, being able to throw the ball with confidence across the middle into some pockets. I thought his ability to move has never been in doubt. But when he moved to his left, Rich, his accuracy dropped, his eyes dropped. He ran the ball more than he threw it. And when he did throw it, it was probably somewhere in the 30% range. Not so this year. He worked on all those things, and you can tell this is a gym rat, son of a coach, a mature young man who understood what he needed to do in the offseason, and he got to it. What's never been in doubt has been his leadership and his ability to connect with his teammates. That's never been an issue for him.
Charles, I'm really excited about the Eagles offense. I'm also excited about the San Francisco defense. I love to see those two teams meet up in the NFC Championship game. We may get that. You're a guy that made a name for himself on the defensive side of the ball. And you look at that San Francisco defense, number 1 in scoring, number 1 in total defense, number 1 against the run, fewest missed tackles this year. I know you're a huge fan of DeMeco Ryans, but just talk about what you've seen from the San Francisco defense so far this season.
Absolute cohesiveness, Rich. This is a group that, and when I say cohesiveness, I'm talking about how they play. Because you and I both know the names change every week with that defense because they've had a bunch of injuries over there. They've had to change guys in and out. Eric Armstead, who's one of the better defensive tackle, defensive end combo guys in the league, he's missed a ton of time. But names like Kevin Givens have stepped in for him and have played very well. Oh, that's right. Now Kevin Givens is hurt. But you just keep going. Secondary, linebackers, what have you. Azeez Al-Shir missed some time. He's back. So now they're complete at linebacker with him, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. Secondary, they've had mix and match throughout the year as well. But they understand each other. They trust each other. They really believe in DeMeco Ryans. And when all comes to, when push comes to shove, Nick Bosa is an absolute game wrecker off the edge.
I think you and Ian have one of the best games this weekend in New York between the Lions and the Jets. Lions, one of the best stories so far, Charles, this year in the NFL. They start the season 1-6. They've now won 5 of their last 6 games. What's been the difference the last month and a half for Detroit?
I think, a lot of people are going to point to the offense and how Jared Goff's playing at quarterback, and he's playing awfully well. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is terrific at receiver. DJ Chark has returned after a 6-game absence. Jamal Williams, all he does is score touchdowns. He's got 14 of them. I could go on and on, not even mentioning this offensive line, which plays better and better every week. But to me, it's on the other side of the ball. I mean, their numbers now, even when you look at them now, you kind of, but over the last 6 games when they're 5-1, their numbers are so much better on the defensive side. Plus, they're taking it away. They're on a 12-game streak of taking the ball away. All right. They've had multiple takeaways, I think, in 5 straight games. They are getting it done now. And while the numbers are never going to equal out because of the horrific start they had, now they've got players who play really well. And I really think their defensive line keys things. I really think that's where it is. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson, the rookie, but you look at that whole group. Isaiah Buggs has really played well inside, has become a leader for them. But I think that side of the ball, Rich, is the difference in where they were from 1-6 to now, that 5-1 in their last 6 games played.
Charles, you know how quickly things can change in our business. The Dolphins and Tua were just cruising along.
Yeah.
They're scoring 30 points or more in 4 straight games. This last 2 games, they've been held to 17. What's been the challenge? What's been the biggest struggle, particularly with Tua? Because Tua Tagovailoa, I thought, was maybe the comeback player of the year, certainly in the conversation for NFL MVP. But the last 2 weeks has me concerned.
Well, for me, Rich, and it's interesting because last year the Dolphins did essentially what the Lions are trying to do right now. You remember with the bad start the Dolphins got off to, and they had a late run and almost made the playoffs. The Lions are trying to emulate that now. But for me, I'm the son of a basketball coach, okay? And he loved to play full court. He wanted to get up and down. And my dad, as a coach, he wanted to press and run, do all those things. That's the Miami offense. They're fast break. They're on the go. They're moving. Tyreek Hill making big plays. Jalen Waddle, big plays. Mike Gesicki at tight end. They even brought in Jeff Wilson to help him with the running game. Teams have slowed them down recently. They've made them a half-court team in basketball parlance. And unless you have flat-out finishers everywhere all the time, it's hard to score each and every time. And that's where they are. They're making them do that. And look, Rich, you played the quarterback position as well as anyone's played it. You won an MVP. You know what it's like when defenses all kind of come together. We're going to play a certain style. We're going to slow you guys down. 2 high safety. Keep it in front. Do you have the patience to outlast them? And we're seeing that all over the league. And I feel like that's what we've seen recently with Miami.
Charles, another team that's in trouble, the Tennessee Titans. They've lost 3 straight. They've allowed quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts and Trevor Lawrence to throw for over 350, 3 touchdowns, rush for a touchdown. They're having a difficult time getting off the field on 3rd down and stopping teams from scoring. And this weekend, they travel to Los Angeles to play the Chargers and Justin Herbert. You get a sense that they can get things turned around in Tennessee?
They have to, because things are starting to slip on them, although I still think they're going to win the division. They have a 2-game lead. They've just sprinted out so far ahead. Can they get reeled in? Sure, but I don't know who's going to actually do it. Here's my thing with Tennessee, though. They have a style of play, an identity that they play to, and it all starts with Derrick Henry, beat you up in the run game, and then Ryan Tannehill can do his thing off of that. Well, we had him against Cincinnati a few weeks ago, and Derrick Henry never got started. And because he couldn't get started, they couldn't get Ryan Tannehill activated. And by the way, no one really scares you out wide. They're trying to get the rookie Traylon Burks to be the guy that terrifies you downfield. But other than that, they don't really have it. They're hoping the tight end Chigo Okonkwo can give them more of that. And I think that's where it is for them. The reason I think they can get it turned around is this Chargers defense, for the 2nd year in a row, they can't stop anyone running the football. So if this is a week to get right for Tennessee, Derrick Henry, this is absolutely the one. And I think that Mike Vrabel is going to tell Ryan Tannehill, you make sure 22 touches it 3 out of every 4, 4 out of every 5 times. Otherwise, you and I are going to have a discussion.
Charles, last one for me. I don't know that anyone's taken the 10-3 Minnesota Vikings seriously. I know you've seen this team. I know you studied them. Obviously, you watched the Lions get after them last week. I think the biggest issue they're having right now is defensively. They're dead last in total defense. They're dead last against the pass. What have you seen from the Vikings so far this season?
It's a formula, Rich, that when it works, you feel, okay, all right, I get what you're saying, because Ed Donatel, their defensive coordinator, will tell you, hey, it's not about yards, it's about points. I don't care if they go up and down field, but if we slow them down in the red zone, if we make them attempt field goals, if they give up touchdowns, that's how it works. And that's how they beat the Jets a couple of weeks ago. The Jets went 4 straight possessions, Rich, in the second half, all culminating in field goals. And you know from playing, what's the old adage? If you kick a lot of field goals, you probably kicked yourself into a loss. All right, that's kind of how it works for the most part. Now, sometimes it works opposite, and your field goal kicker wins the day. But that's what did it. And they shut them down 2 more times, 1 in the end zone and 1 a pick to end the ball game. So that's how they did it. The Jets outgained them. They did everything, controlled the clock, you name it, but they couldn't score when they needed to. And that's where Minnesota is on defense. Can you do that? And can that be consistent for you come playoff time, where you make the key stop every time you have to have it? I think that's a hard way to go. I really do. I think that's very, very difficult. I take them seriously because they can score on offense too, but they've lost their verve running the football. Dalvin Cook and crew last week against Minnesota, 22 yards on the ground, Rich. Look, people may say it's different now with O'Connell than Mike Zimmer, and I get all that. But you got to have Dalvin Cook going. You got to have him moving it. He and Alexander Madison, because if you do that, then Kirk Cousins is wide open with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and crew downfield.
There you have it. Another edition of Sportsbook Spotlight brought to you by betPARX. Thanks so much, Charles, for joining us. Have a great call this weekend.